Hi guys, this is Erica from Gokce Capital.
Now before I begin, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications. Sometimes it is true, no good deed goes unpunished. This was certainly the case with one nonprofit that had the audacity to try and turn a small, blighted lot into affordable senior housing. The lot was a small infill property squeezed between two 6-story apartment buildings. At only 20 feet wide, it was considered too small to develop. Yet now, the area around the lot was booming, and with some creative financing, the nonprofit thought they could clean up the site and provide much-needed housing for the neighborhood's seniors. Unfortunately, they did not account for the neighbor. What happened? I'll let you know at the end of this video. But as a sneak peek, I can tell you that the issue involved an encroachment, which is in fact one of the most common issues that can plague owners of vacant land. So in today's video, we're going to cover the top things you should know about encroachments. Number 1. An encroachment is a situation where one property owner builds or extends an improvement onto their neighbor's property. Number 2. Encroachments take many different forms. Perhaps one of the most common instances is when a neighbor builds something on your property, whether a shed or a driveway or a fence. An encroachment can also be partial, or someone routinely using your property for access without having a valid easement. And finally, when a neighbor abuses a valid easement, this can sometimes become an encroachment, depending on the specifics of the easement involved. Number 3. There are many different kinds of encroachments, but broadly speaking, there are two main categories. The first is a trespass encroachment, which covers most of what we've discussed previously. It involves an intrusion onto physical land, such as when a fence or shed is placed partially on your property. There is also, however, a nuisance encroachment, which is an encroachment into your airspace. Most commonly, this happens when a neighbor's tree branches hang over into your yard. Number 4. Encroachments are illegal, but there are certain circumstances in which an encroachment can be made legal through adverse possession. In this situation, the neighboring owner makes a claim on the parcel of land they are encroaching upon by dint of their ongoing use of that property. Now, the rules around adverse possession vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but generally the encroaching party must prove the following in order to claim possession over the land that they have encroached upon. They must prove that the encroachment is continuous. That is to say, they must show that they have been using your property for a set period of time. The length of time varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but it's often somewhere in the 10 to 20-year range. The encroaching party must also prove that the encroachment is hostile, which is to say that they do not have your approval to use the property. The encroachment must be open, meaning that the encroaching party cannot be hiding their use of the property. Their use must be open and obvious to the owner of the property on which the encroachment is occurring. The encroachment must also be actual, meaning that it must be proven that the encroaching party is in fact encroaching on someone else's land. And the encroachment must be exclusive. This is another way of saying that the encroaching party is the only one who has been using the encroachment for the continuous time period. Number 5. Encroachments can create title issues. After all, someone else is clearly using the property. An encroachment will thus show up both in a survey and will be listed as a title exception in any title commitment letter. For this reason, you may find that it is difficult to sell a property with an encroachment on it. And so, number 6, if you do find that you own a property with an encroachment on it, there are a few options for dealing with the issue. The easiest way to resolve it is, of course, to ask your neighbor to simply remove the encroaching structure. Depending on the nature of the encroachment and your relationship with your neighbor, this may be all you need to do. But unfortunately, often it is not quite this simple. If you're dealing with an encroachment of a structure or something that would be otherwise difficult to remove, you may have to come up with a compromise. For example, you can execute an easement giving your neighbor the legal right to continue using a portion of your property. This may not sound ideal to you as the owner of the property being encroached upon, but at least an easement makes the encroachment legal and can help avoid title issues. Another option would be to execute a lot line adjustment to bring the encroachment entirely into your neighbor's property. If you're dealing with a very large encroachment, An alternative option is to put an offer on your neighbor's property. But in a worst-case scenario, you may have to go to court to have the court order the removal of the encroachment. Which brings us back to our opening example. What did happen in the case of our senior housing project? It turns out that the owner of one of the neighboring apartment buildings had leased the ground floor to a small takeout restaurant. The building did not have an interior ventilation system that would support a commercial kitchen, so the building owner had run a commercial-scale vent up the side of the building, encroaching about a foot into the vacant lot. A foot may not seem like a large encroachment, but once an appropriate setback was also factored into the design, the vent effectively made the site too narrow to develop. Remember, it was only 20 feet wide to begin with. The developer reached out to the owner asking if the vent could be removed, and was essentially told by the neighbor that they were never going to build on the property. And so the developer had no choice but to go to court. As we said, no good deed goes unpunished. Do you have any stories about encroachments? Let us know in the comments. Did you like this video? You're going to love our Gokce Land Due Diligence program. We'll make you a land due diligence expert in just 7 days. Check it out at gokcecapital.com/glad. And while you're at our website, don't forget to explore our $1 down properties at gokcecapital.com/listings. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. You can email, call, or text, and we will respond as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and more to come.